Good day, Lasallians. The DLSU USG-Judiciary has found the Executive Board of the Commission on Mental Health and Well-Being not guilty on all charges, including violation of due process and undermining the integrity of the USG. The Commission is responsible for the creation of policies that protect and cater to the mental health and welfare of the Lasallian community. The charges were filed after CMW Commissioners Michio Matsumura and Patricia Ang, Chief of Staff Sophia Reyes, and Chief Operations Officer Elijah Velez allegedly intended to remove the plaintiff Ayana Dayu from her former position as Director of Policies and Reforms, offering it to another person while the position was still hers in response to accusations against her. A plea hearing was initially held by the USG Judiciary for case number 2023-02001, the students of De La Salle University versus the Executive Board of the Commission on Mental Health and Well-Being last March 31, 2023. Following this, case hearings were held on May 8 and 9, 2023, where arguments and evidence were presented to the Honorable Court headed by Chief Magistrate Alexandra Tolisora. Based on the antecedent facts, on February 6, 2023, 10 a.m., CMW Commissioner Michio Matsumura received accusations that the plaintiff Ayana Dayu had a history of using racial slurs as well as displaying ableist tendencies, which Matsumura then raised to CMW's executive board. Around 3 in the afternoon, Matsumura, Ang, and Velez met up with the source of the accusations, who allegedly showed them evidence of such in the form of screenshots from a messaging app. The members of the EB were unable to retrieve a copy of the images. At 6:12 p.m., Matsumura contacted Dayu regarding the temporary removal of her name on the USG publication materials containing the list of officers of all USG commissions due to then undisclosed allegations made against her. Matsumura asked if Dayu could meet up with the CMW's executive board to address this matter. Dayu agreed and at 6:40 p.m. asked for details of the allegations. At 6:48 p.m., the publication materials were posted excluding Dayu from the list. About 10 minutes later, Matsumura replied saying it was best to discuss the matter in the meeting. At 7:12 p.m., Matsumura contacted Joshua Cote, who at the time was an executive of the Policies and Reforms Department, to meet with her to discuss something important without explicitly disclosing the subject of the meeting. CMW Commissioner Patricia Ang and Matsumura told Cote that the informant, who at the time was serving as the Director for Policies and Reforms, was resigning. Cote was asked to send a letter of intent and a resume for the aforementioned position, which he later sent to Matsumura. Cote was then invited to attend the alignment meeting of the USG Commission at 8:30 p.m., where he was introduced as the Director of Policies and Reforms of the CMW. At 9:40 p.m., the meeting between CMW's executive board and the informant occurred, where Dayu was told of the accusations made against her. Over the course of the meeting, no evidence of said accusations was presented, but Dayu corroborated the complaint having occurred in the past. Dayu then vocalized her intention of resigning from her position in the meeting and sent her resignation letter on February 7, 2023. The side of the plaintiff, CMW former Director for Policies and Reforms Ayana Dayu, represented by counsel officers Jose Alejandro Hamir and Nathalie Libres, argued that the CMW's executive board failed to provide due process when they removed her from the USG publication materials without her consent after learning of the allegations pinned against her. Dayu, however, was not properly informed of said accusations and was not given the platform to explain her side prior to the actions of the EB.
She actually chose not to disclose the specifics to me during the time. I asked multiple times, but she did not answer my questions directly. By 6:40 p.m., I requested information, or at least an overview, of such allegations for purposes of transparency.
Additionally, CMW's executive board allegedly spoke with now Director for Policies and Reforms Joshua Cote to appoint him in replacement of Dayu even prior to tendering her resignation. Cote was told that Dayu intended to resign from her position despite her not having vocalized intent to vacate the position at the time.
They told me that by that time, they said that Miss Dayu was already sure or was sure, and that's why they're offering me the position. They just need to wait for the resignation letters to be processed before I can officially be called as a director at that time, following the proper procedures, I assume.
Meanwhile, the defense on the side of the executive board, represented by council officers Kenneth Angelo Julio and Lance Mendoza, argued that the CMW's executive board had only wished to uphold the integrity of the commission. They asserted that no due process was violated as CMW's EB met with Dayu for an internal investigation the night of the latter's removal from the publication materials and after meeting with Cote. Dayu, during the meeting, had admitted to the allegations that had been made against her. However, the executive board were unable to make a decision on her position as she resigned the day after.
What happened during the actual EB meeting with Miss Dayu regarding her allegations?
On the day that I met Miss Dayu with my EB, during the alignment meeting, we were actually in huge. Me and my fellow commissioner, Patricia Ang, we came in late to the meeting. So it was Noel and Soph who were the ones leading the meeting. But during the meeting, while we were listening in at the start, Noelle first explained what the allegations were, and we heard her side of the story. Immediately, she started admitting to her mistakes and started apologizing. Then afterwards, she was justifying why she used racial slurs towards her peers. She also mentioned that it happened a long time ago. If I remember correctly, term one of her first year. Noelle then explained to Miss Dayu that her actions undermined the integrity of the commission. Dayu mentioned that it felt like we wanted her to resign, and then she resigned. She verbalized her resignation.
They also stated that Cote was only meant to be an additional director, thus not ousting Dayu from her position. Contrastingly, the defense claimed to have an intention to oust Dayu once she was found guilty of the allegations.
Did you or did you not offer him the position of director of ref during the EGI meet?
Uh, yes.
The counsel for the plaintiff asserted that gross negligence was committed by the defendants as they removed Dayu's name from the publication materials while the position was still hers, which takes away from the right of the student body to be informed. They also chose to decide on a replacement for Dayu without formal investigation of the accusations made against her.
From the testimony of Ms. Dayo, my client, it was clear that she was deprived of a safe space when the commissioners carelessly handled her situation. She was deprived of the evidence of the allegations that were brought to her attention, something that she did as a private citizen, which she willingly admits that such behavior is already unacceptable and has owned up to.
On the other hand, the counsel for the defendants pressed that the CMW's executive board sought to protect their integrity and advocacy and contends that they handled the case of their members who once made remarks that contradicted the objectives of the commission cautiously by providing the plaintiff a space to defend herself.
Throughout the trial, the defendants have continuously argued that the Commission on Mental Health and Well-Being's actions are done not with a guilty mind, but rather in good faith. That is to protect their commission's integrity as part of the university student government.
On May 12, 2023, the DLSU USG-Judiciary acquitted the CMW EB on all charges due to the lack of legal injury made to the plaintiff and the failure of the plaintiff to substantiate claims with sufficient evidence. In an exclusive interview, Ayana Dayu and her counsel officer Jose Alejandro Hamir stated that they understood how the court ruling was made and shared that despite the verdict, the case has served greater purposes.
My co-counsel and I, Natalie Libres, we knew very well going to this case that it was going to be a very hard one. I'm not disappointed on how the case turned out because one of the main goals of the trial and of the case in general is to clear the side of our format.
Losing this case does not necessarily mean I actually lost the battle and it's over for me. The case was able to reveal the kind of people that we allow to govern us, and at the same time, it reveals how there is a lack of transparency and how various injustices happen that others are unaware about.
Dayu hopes that the case serves as a stepping stone to incite good governance. Meanwhile, counsel officer for the defendants, Kenneth Julio, shares his and the CMW EB's reaction to the court ruling.
Of course, we're happy that our clients are acquitted with all the charges filed against them. Right after the decision was made, we actually talked with our clients and they were very happy with the decision, of course.
In light of the court's decision, the CMW Executive Board will be returning to their duties and responsibilities in the USG. In accordance with Section 3.1, Rule 17 of the Rules of Court, both sides may file for a reconsideration to present newly found evidence until May 22, 2023. This has been Keith Flores, reporting for Arch News. Animo Lasal.